Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm featuring the Tier 10 German tank destroyer, a vehicle that seems to have really got out of fashion in the last few years. It is the Grille 15. Now this tank used to be probably one of, if not the best, Tier 10 tank destroyer in the game when the Panzer E100 was removed and players flocked to it after, of course, the true turreted German autoloading tank destroyer was removed from the game. The Grille at one stage, before update 9.17.1, was in a much more fearsome state than it currently is. In that patch, Wargaming tuned back the statistics of the vehicle, worsening the rate of fire of the vehicle from specifically 16.5 seconds reload down to 18 seconds reload. The gun depression of the tank was nerfed from 8 degrees to 7 degrees. The reverse speed of the vehicle was chopped down from 20, which really allowed it to pull back round a corner very quickly, or even to try and stop people from surrounding it in a close quarters situation, down to 15 kilometers an hour. And also, the engine power of the vehicle was reduced from, I believe, 900 to 850. So just, not really just destroying the things that were amazing about this vehicle, i.e. the higher alpha damage at 750, combined with a whopping awesome accuracy of 0.27. But just enough things happen to the tank so that actually the vehicle is now in a position where it has a worse global win ratio than the Panzer E100, and it is doing less damage on average. Bizarre that, right? Everybody looks at the Panzer E100 and thinks it's an awful tank destroyer. Sure, it's got that big gun, 1050 damage, but the armor on the vehicle just seems to be overmatched, or shall I say, people compensate when they're playing against it by instantly dabbing that 2 key and loading special rounds, gold rounds, premium rounds, whatever you want to call them, which kind of just negates most of the whole point of driving a Panzer E100. And I guess another reason why the Panzer E100 has just not really ever truly come into form is because there are vehicles like the FV215B183 which have higher alpha damage, access to HESH rounds that have 1750 alpha damage, which makes 1050 look absolutely awful, right? And of course, with the high explosive rounds there, even if you don't pen, you're still doing sometimes 600, 700 damage, even to reasonably heavily armored vehicles. So what's the point in playing something like a Panzer E100? Now the Grille, the reason why I'm featuring on my channel is because I've been turning to this tank to actually complete some of my missions for the Object 279E. And recently, I wasn't attempting to, but I managed to get my 3rd Mark of Excellence on the tank. Now you're not going to be seeing the game that actually got the Mark of Excellence on this vehicle because it was a pretty tragic, like a 4,000 damage game. Well, it's not a bad game of World Tanks by any standards in a Tier 10 tank destroyer, but it was just very underwhelming, and I kind of spread it out over 12 minutes because I was trying to do the most damage on my team to be able to complete the Object 279E mission. You're going to be seeing something of how I play the Grille when I'm feeling more natural, when I'm not trying to necessarily just try and achieve missions, but trying to just have some fun in what I still feel is probably one of the most fun tank destroyers for me to play. Probably because it's really fast. This tank can still go at 60 kilometers an hour forwards, and its power to weight ratio is over 21. So this thing's nippy, and even with its nerfed reverse speed, it doesn't feel like it's not flexible, having a turret that can turn 45 degrees to the left and 45 degrees to the right, giving it a lovely gun arc. And I also like to use things like coated optics on this vehicle, although there are a lot of people who might like to use binoculars on this tank because of having that flexible turret and the likelihood that you're probably going to want to try and keep your opponents at very long range in this tank. But I prefer to play a more aggressive Grille role. I feel that this is almost a medium gun support, and I think it actually goes very well with medium tanks. And when I've been playing it around on the battlefield, I do like to spot out if I've got some mediums on my team and then simply go forward and assist them. And sure, mediums are great, high DPM. This vehicle's DPM is no slouch, by the way, at 2,500 even in its nerfed state. But to get in, have that turret, and to pack 750 alpha damage, and also have the mobility to be able to avoid it if a heavy tank seems to come and swing your way, this thing is really gnarly, and it does synergize very well in a platoon. Although I can also think that in a platoon, do you really want to be in a tank that has literally no armor? And if you do manage to lock its tracks down twice and get behind it, then you're absolutely going to brutalize it. I think it's about the mobility. And the fact that this is the 3rd most accurate tank in the game at 0.27. Although, more often than not, that 0.27 accuracy doesn't really feel like it. I guess all of you know how accuracy feels in World of Tanks. Tanks like the Object 430U with 0.4 accuracy, the worst accuracy on any Tier 10 medium tank, Maybe it's because I'm just playing at close quarters in a vehicle like that, but I just really can't seem to miss. And whenever you're trying to play at 300 meters, 400, 500, even more, if you're really trying to max out the render distance on this vehicle, then it can feel pretty darn annoying when you miss. But it is, of course, only the Stridsvagn 103B and the UDES 15 that have, sorry, the UDES at tier 8 that have a better accuracy at 0.25. Now you'll notice that I fired a heat round there that actually went into the Grille's gun. What a waste of credits, and actually only critting the enemy tier 10 tank destroyer and not actually damaging him. If I'd been firing armor-piercing rounds there, not only would I probably have damaged the gun, I would have probably gone into the mantlet behind. If you can even really call this a mantlet, it's probably more of a gun shield for the crew. One thing that I do love about this vehicle is the skin that Wargaming released at Christmas. If you're wondering why this Grille does look a little bit different, if you haven't seen the vehicle around in a while, I think that was some really good content. I just think that Wargaming kind of screwed up a little bit with it by putting it inside gambling loot boxes. I think if Wargaming were to focus on making more models like this, I'm not sure how challenging they are for them to make. I'm sure it's definitely going to take a few artists a good while. But I would be happy to drop 5 to 10 euros on a skin like this to really make my tank feel special. And when you look at games like League of Legends, I think Tanya just got a... Well, I know. Tanya just got a DJ Sona skin, which is a really cool skin, by the way, if you have any idea about what that game is all about. But it was like £20. So people, it's clear that in other games are willing to spend huge amounts of money just to look different, right? I think that Wargaming could really capitalize on that and even put it outside of some kind of gambling format to I guess, make a load of money that doesn't have any balancing impact in their game. We'll have to see if that's what they've got planned. Clearly, they've been working on it the last few years with the new style system they have in the game, and I truly hope that they still build upon it. Although we haven't seen anything novel really come out in the last 6 months since these went out. Although these were on the black market, but they were extortionately priced, I believe, in gold value. So this is really where I love the Grille as well. It's not just about sniping at long range in this tank. When you've got some hit points left at the end of the game, and you can feel like you can be a bit cheeky, you can start to rack up the rounds. The reload on this vehicle, definitely not the best these days with that 18-second base reload. But when you get a gun rammer, when you have good crew skills, maybe even use chocolate on this vehicle, you can really start to pump it up. And when you're hitting for 750, or at least you hope you are on average, then this thing just feels absolutely beautiful even in close quarters combat, as long as you get to play the support role. You always have to make sure that you are with your friends in this tank. If you are not with your friends, then you are truly going to be struggling. Because it's so easy to come around the corner, to put one through the gun shield on this vehicle, or even to lock down the tank's tracks, to hold it in place and then be able to absolutely farm it if you're playing a medium tank. And while the Grille does punch back very hard, I'm sure that Object 430U isn't too happy about those trades that he's pulling off right now with us penetrating his tank for the second time and nearly removing him from the game. If you are in a 1 versus 1 situation and they can kind of put 2 shots in for every shot that you put, then you eventually get out-traded, and 1,800 hit points with absolutely no armor to go along with it is not going to get you a very long way. But this game, we're under 9 minutes of gameplay here, and to have pulled off 7,800 damage for only 1 kill? That's not the best luck, is it really? I'm not going to say that this is my regular average kind of game, my regular ordinary Grille 15 game. I have been very fortunate here. But this game really highlights the playstyle that I love. Get into a position where you've hopefully got a large sweeping overview of the battlefield, try to pull off a few shots without taking any damage early, and then later on, get into a position where you can assist your team, and hopefully you can really be the extra clout inside your team's advance to push on towards the enemy's base and hopefully take the game down along with it. So an ace tanker with a Confederate and a high caliber medal here. 7,800 damage, pretty much double what anyone else was able to achieve. But we didn't actually get the most experience. It was the Object 430U, who I guess was spotting for me, picking up the kills and fighting in close quarters combat that actually gets most of it. But luckily for us, we didn't ricochet too many rounds here or even miss too many premium rounds, which means that we would make a profit with or without a premium account. But look, while I am singing the praises of the Grille here, don't get me wrong, this vehicle has really awful penetration for a tier 10 tank destroyer in its standard rounds, and even when you load the gold on this tank, it only pumps it up to 330, which is not really a tier 10 tank destroyer when you consider that there are vehicles like the the Jagdpanzer that pack 420mm of heat penetration, or even just other tank destroyers that are seemingly to pack 375 of APCR. And this is why, as I mentioned during the replay, that the Grille is underperforming compared to even the Panzer E100 right now, with about a 48.5% average win rate on the European server and less average damage than its heavier counterpart. Nevertheless, having played the Grille quite a bit recently, I can tell you that while it's definitely not in the best form of its life, as long as you are willing to just play that support role and then eventually try and trade your hit points efficiently with your team later on, this thing is still quite a mighty German tank destroyer. Anyway, that's it for today, ladies and gents. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, 679 of you have voted, and the winner is the STB-1, the Tier 10 Japanese medium tank, I guess because the vehicle was just recently changed to have a hydro-pneumatic suspension. So come along right now as I showcase all of the changes through the Japanese medium tank tech tree, culminating with the STB-1 and its hydro-pneumatic suspension, so we can see whether it's a line that's now worth grinding, or alternatively, if you already have the tanks, maybe you can pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, and as always, enjoy the summer. Have a great time, get outside, but hopefully I'll see a few of you at Tankfest next weekend, right?